Hello there. We've got Melissa Dark with us today, who's going to be talking about education, and it plays nicely into something that I've been talk about a lot, which is the cybersecurity talent gap. And we're always talking about that on the back end of kind of how we can do that and address the concern and the talent gap. And Melissa today is here to talk about how we can do this from a grassroots level. Melissa, for those that don't know you, can you give me a bit of an introduction, an overview of your career today and what you do?
Be happy to. Thanks. Thanks for inviting me. I started in cybersecurity education 22 years ago. My degrees are in curriculum and instruction, and I had always worked in engineering. And then this opportunity came along to work at Purdue's Cybersecurity Center. So I took a leap of faith, went into a field I didn't know anything about in 2000. And I'll tell you, Tom, so much has changed, right? So back in 2000, I knew 7 other universities besides Purdue that were preparing cybersecurity graduates. And today, of course, it's hundreds of universities, still not enough.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I did a variety of projects to help build cybersecurity across universities. And then just real quick in 2015, I'll tell you, I got involved in 2 projects that were at the K-12 level, really at the high school level.
Yeah.
And I started working on these 2 projects, and I envisioned that it would be a couple of years working at high school cybersecurity education, and I'd still be Professor Dark at Purdue University today. But a couple of years ago, I founded a nonprofit, and I work exclusively in high school cybersecurity education right now.
Very, very cool. Well, I know that we've talked offline ahead of this today, but continued with my customers on the front end. I have there is this talent gap within these big technology companies, these powerhouses that struggle to hire kind of on a day-to-day basis, and we're always looking for unconventional paths. I think I mentioned to you that I'm part of Merritt College, which is a cybersecurity program over in Oakland that gets people from unconventional backgrounds into cybersecurity. But it's always, and we get some great graduates through from that, and then kind of 3 to 4 year graduates coming through and going into the marketplace. However, there continues to be this massive skills gap. And I think that kind of where I'm really interested and where our conversations have been going so far are around kind of how at a grassroots level, kind of the meaningful work that you and your colleagues do on the impact that can have and the change for the future that we need to keep up with this continued demand. So can you give me a bit of an overview of the nonprofit that you founded and I guess the meaningful work that you guys do over there?
Again, so it's called Dark Enterprises. My last name is Dark.
Yeah.
Literally was sitting at the attorney's office, and he said, "What's the name of your company?" And I said, "I don't have a name yet." And he said, "Well, then let's just call it Dark Enterprises."
Yeah.
So what do we do? First project that we started with was to say, if we could create what we think would be a scalable course to teach in high schools all across the United States in cybersecurity, what would be in it? What would we put in that course?
Yeah.
So we created a set of guidelines. And those guidelines were important to us because we were saying to ourselves, okay, so if you could teach something across hundreds, thousands of high schools in the United States, and you want to both give students some skills to go out to work or give some students some skills to go to college, right? Employment or enrollment. Yeah. What would you teach? So we worked on those guidelines with the idea that it could help lead them towards certification or towards maybe like a college class.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like maybe dual enrollment, take a college class in high school or take a class in high school that you could take a placement test and get college credit for.
Yeah.
Piece number 1, the guidelines. So we've been out there working and talking to state departments of education and school districts and teachers about these guidelines. And they say, this is great. We really like them. What do you have that can help us teach a course according to these guidelines? So we got busy during COVID summer, number one.
Yeah. I think as did anybody in education, was certainly an interesting and challenging period.
Yeah. And we built courseware. And we make that courseware available to teachers across the country, Creative Commons licensed. They can adopt it, they can adapt it, they can make derivative works. Right now, because we've been fortunate to get support, we've been able to make that available at no charge to high school teachers.
That's fantastic. Okay? Yeah.
And they really need it. This is all pretty new, Tom.
Yeah.
We literally just built the Teach Cyber website, which is where teachers go to register to get these materials.
Yeah.
We built that website in the fall of 2020. And so November of 2020, if you and I were talking, I would have said, oh, Tom, we have 50 teachers.
Come back to me next year.
And we just surpassed 1,100 teachers.
Wow.
In the United States who are registered with Teach Cyber and using Teach Cyber materials to teach cybersecurity at the high school level. All of it using these guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we needed the guidelines. The schools need the curriculum materials. The schools also need teachers to be upskilled, to be ready to teach cybersecurity.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so nuanced. I know that kind of we talked about your educational background and your time at Purdue, and there is a track that incredible teachers can teach any subject in theory, but cybersecurity is so nuanced and there's so much depth. The landscape is always emerging. So like there's so many kind of plates, I guess, that you're spinning to try and keep up with this into your curriculum, whilst also trying to deliver this to your teachers.
And, building off of what you just said, some people in K-12 think that what cybersecurity is kind of digital citizenship or cyber safety. And we really want to move beyond that because it is so nuanced, like you just said, and it's so deep. So we want to make sure we're working with teachers and we're giving them enough depth of knowledge that we're not just teaching, how to create a safe password, how to do those, how to look for the lock on that it's a secure website. We want to go a lot deeper than that. So we work a lot in teacher professional development. And one of our newest projects is an assessment project. How I mentioned a few minutes ago, we dream about maybe having a dual enrollment course or a placement credit course for high school students. So we're just out of the gate on an exciting assessment project that could grow into that kind of placement test for students in high school to get college credit. So that's the kind of work we do.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with me. The other question I have for you is the importance of, I guess, this course and courses, and I guess just investment in general in kind of high school for the future of cybersecurity. I'll give you an example. Kind of education. I'm originally from the UK, if you can't tell, and the educational system just hasn't changed in decades. And cybersecurity really is kind of this scary emerging technology that I don't see people hugely investing in. Whilst there's other countries in the world at the same curriculum that are putting kind of hacking courses into that curriculum and being reactive to where the world is changing. I guess my question for you, Melissa, is kind of how important kind of is the work that you're doing right now from an educational standpoint on the future and the landscape of cybersecurity in the future?
So we think a lot about this, right? because time's precious. So you want to do things that are important, things that you believe are important. So we have two main causes. The first one stems from the fact that in cyberspace, the human being is the weak link.
Yep.
And we're all only as secure as the weakest link.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
So that brings forward that need to try to make a populace literate in cybersecurity. And I don't just mean those safe online behaviors. Being literate in something means that you can continue to learn. You don't learn a set of 8 behaviors, and as long as you do that for the rest of your life, you're safe and everybody else is safe. So we want to go deep enough with a huge population.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To make them literate. But where we, and that's important. We do work there, but we really try to focus is on building that first piece of the talent pipeline. Yeah. What can we do in high school? What can we do that gives students enough depth that, first of all, they know that this could be a career field they'd be interested in?
Yeah.
Right? And enough depth that they can know that they could be good at it. All of us want to do things that interest us and that we can be good at. And then we try to make sure we do it in a way that really shines a light on how important it is, so that students coming out of high school can understand the meaning and the relevancy of a career in cybersecurity.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And also, like, one thing that we send out a lot of kind of questionnaires and surveys to people within this type of industry, like as a community leader, I guess, like, what can we do to help educate people coming into the industry? And it's always, it's exactly like basic hygiene is pretty much what you talked about earlier. Cybersecurity hygiene is a lot of the things you mentioned, which is really important, but also like kind of understanding the career pathways of cybersecurity. How do I, like, everyone wants to be a penetration tester or get to be a CISO, right? But actually, what are the pathways for you to get into cybersecurity? And once you're in there, how do you navigate a career with purpose through there to get to these different kind of areas? And there's not enough education around what that looks like. We talked about the industry being so nuanced earlier, but kind of there's only these headlines around like being a hacker or a penetration tester because Hollywood has glamorized this kind of mindset that everybody wants to be a hacker, but actually kind of that's such a small kind of subsection of cybersecurity that we need to build a successful and safe future for everybody.
I will tell you some of the things that students say to me.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
That I think are really interesting. Students say to me, I participated in this cybersecurity class, or I participated in this cybersecurity club or competition. And the things that I find interesting about cybersecurity as a career is serving others. There is always kind of that duty of care, you know, that appeals to not every student, but a lot of them. It's interesting, it's adaptive, it's fast-paced, it's a career where I think I'm always going to be able to learn and grow. I find that interesting.
Absolutely.
It appeals to students who are innate problem solvers. They have a high degree of curiosity. You know, so we try to make sure that everything we do in our curriculum and teaching teachers to teach students helps bring those points forward. Because I think whether you're going to go into designing secure systems, penetration testing to make existing systems more secure, after the fact, forensics, what happened? Here's the crime scene, what happened? Problem solving, curiosity, openness to a lot of change that's fast paced, interest in continuing to learn, serving others.
Yeah, and
See,
empathy as always as well. I think empathy
yeah.
is the one that's another important factor within that I see a lot with people that are starting in that. But yeah, curiosity and duty of care, kind of, they are skills that you can have as a young person, kind of in education.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think that's really, really important. And like a lot of the work that I see, people that really just care about it. It's the best community I've ever been part of professionally and personally. Actually, I've made some incredible friends that kind of and trusted allies and kind of people that I spend a lot of time with. But also like kind of that level of like empathy and understanding, curiosity, and also just being a good person and making the world a safer place. Like that mission-driven element, it exists in some of the most senior folks that I work with, but does come from a core, maybe family or morally driven factor that people have at high school and even younger. So, yeah, that's great to see that you see that as well. I would like to have you on another time to discuss this because this is a whole different discussion point. Mm-hmm. But I think that as much as the meaningful work that you do, and did you say you got to 1,100 teachers? That's incredible to see that level of growth and the impact that
in just a little over 1 year.
Yeah, that's insane, and congratulations, because that's massive. And to know the impact that I'm sure you'll be able to quantify, but still quite hard to do, of those 1,100 teachers, the impact across North America that they will have over the next 5.
I mean, think about it.
45 years.
If each of those teachers teaches 25 students in a single year,
yeah,
but those same teachers are going to teach another 25 students next year and the year after. So it's the ripple effect.
Yeah, and then those individuals that go into their jobs that are mentoring individuals that then further other people's interest or education, or even like there's a student I worked with for many years who got into cybersecurity because he was at a Christmas party with his family, and I think his cousin was super successful executive, and just very casually came out, "What do you do?" And that evoked conversation, and then inspired somebody who's now doing some really incredible work with a healthcare technology startup that is now mentoring other people. So it is that snowball effect, but that level of change needs to come from somebody like yourself, Melissa, and a cause and education to allow that to happen. I guess what I was going to say, which I'd love to address at a later stage, is I think where we need to really make the impact, and you and I and others in our community to be change agents, is to change the mindset of companies of looking for that 4-year degree and some of the examples you gave earlier of being kind of having that duty of care, being a problem solvers, taking these raw characteristics and putting them into the workplace. Of course, like kind of 4-year degree within computer science is going to give you a step up necessarily. But we also need for these companies to be more empathetic, more kind of open-minded to what that looks like for us to continue to bridge that cybersecurity talent gap that we chronically have right now. I would love to just, I guess, to finish up, thank you for your time today. I think this has been a really meaningful conversation.
Thank you.
I think it's definitely worth mentioning that kind of what, like, this was started as a non-profit. Well, it is a non-profit, and as you continue to scale, which in 1 year you've seen huge growth, which again, congratulations to you and the team. The support is there, but to continue to have that continued success, you need to have sponsorship and partnerships. And so if there's anybody in my community that would like more information on the course, and more importantly would like to get involved, I will share some links at the end of this, and please feel free to reach out to Melissa and the team, and kind of there'll be a GoFundMe page, and also for corporate sponsorships to reach out to you directly, Melissa.
Reaching out to me directly would be perfect. That would be perfect. We do exist on grants and gifts.
Okay. Fantastic.
That is what has gotten us to 1,100 teachers. And if we want to get to 11,000 teachers, it's going to be 10 times the amount of grants and gifts that got us to 1,100.
Very, very cool.
So if this resonates with any of your partners or clients who are listening to this, really in public education, a gift of $100 could support like cyber range access for one student for a year. A gift of $1,000 could provide pretty immersive professional development for one teacher. All the way up to, a gift of $10,000 or $100,000 just allows us to scale that. Schools don't have the resources that they need to invest in this. And so we're just trying to bring high quality resources and scale it as effectively as we possibly can to fill that talent gap, that thing that you've been talking about, Tom, what your company is all about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is a meaningful cause and one that we can't afford to not have exist and grow and build the future of careers, but also kind of the landscape of cybersecurity. So thank you for the meaningful work that you do. Thank you for your time today. And very much look forward to our continued conversation.